The Pit Press Podcast.
Welcome to A Road to the Pit, a high school journey. I'm your host, Ed Nunez, and my co-host, as he always is my son, Nick Nunez, a former St. Pius player and former St. Pius coach, also a ProView producer and play-by-play broadcaster. Coach Nunez, welcome to the broadcast.
Coach, excited to talk to Joe Jack about some Academy basketball. Good evening to you both.
Well, we've got, as we mentioned, our special guest this evening is Academy senior forward Joe Jack, and we call the show Road to the Pit, and the Academy is the defending champions, having defeated Hope in last year's 4A state championship. I think it's a game that you and I called, Coach, if I'm right. I think we called that game. We called the championship. We call so many, sometimes we lose track of it. But Joe, welcome to the show. We're glad to have you on.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me.
Coach, you got some questions. You've done some extensive research. I've got some questions and comments from Coach Sidabaka and Coach Santianes, who I just talked to before we popped on the show here. So, Coach, you go ahead.
Yeah. So, Joe, we had your game on Friday night against Valley. Obviously didn't go the way that you guys wanted it to, but just talk to us about kind of the reaction and how your practice was Saturday and today.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us is just kind of learning from the loss. Like, obviously, we played them at home about 2 weeks ago, so just kind of game planning and doing what we have to do and making like the correct adjustments so when we see them next time, like we're ready and more prepared than we were the last two times.
One thing that stood out to me, Joe, was on the defensive side of the floor. I thought you guys were pretty locked in the first quarter. They hit that three in the corner at the buzzer at the end of one, which kind of gave me some momentum in the second, but you guys kept it pretty tight at the beginning of the second. But I thought I saw, a few breakdowns on the defensive side of the floor. What was the message from Coach Sidabaka and the rest of the coaching staff?
It's just the little things at the end of the day, like that three in the corner. It's just like, kind of having the right defensive scheme just to go close out, like miss close out at the end of the quarter, which kind of leads to that. So just kind of like fixing those things was like the biggest message, just like, making sure you're aware of where people are at all times.
And Joe, your guys' placement, you guys play in District 6 in the 4A classification, District of Champions, no doubt the toughest district in the 4A classification. Talk about, your guys' performance. You guys are currently, I think, tied for second right now. What do you think how do you feel about where you guys are right now?
Obviously you want to be first, like everyone does. But it's better than being, last or fourth, third, fourth, whatever it would be. But I think I'm still pretty good, feel pretty good about it. And especially with it being so competitive, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, you just want to go into the next games and get the wins and just kind of like leave the rest like out of your control. So,
Coach, go ahead.
You're the leading scorer for the Chargers. I believe it's 21 points a game. If I'm reading Coach Sidabaka's statistics right, and Friday night, Coach Nunez mentioned that Valley they had a good game plan, and Diego Mescales Rivera had a big game. Julian Chavez played well. They spread the floor, and I just talked to Coach Santianes about that before you got on. But we got to mention this too. Academy 17-4. Coach Nunez called this the District of Champions. It is. You beat Highland a couple of weeks ago at Academy, got out to a big lead, and then hung on because Highland, Jesus Lee Cohen, one of the leading scorer in the state, I believe, comes up with the miraculous shots. He really does. And Coach Greg Brown of Volcano Vista, the former Academy ball player and assistant under his dad, the late, great Mike Brown, mentioned he misses easy ones, but makes the most difficult shots with guys draped on him. You guys did a pretty good job that game, though, until the fourth quarter. Highland stormed back. Talk a little bit about that game. I was watching that on TV here at the house, and Highland is always they're going to scrap. You know that. They beat you guys last year. You didn't get a chance to avenge that. They lost in the quarterfinals. Talk a little bit about that game against Highland a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so I think we all knew coming into the game, like that's kind of their that's how they play at the end of the day. They kind of keep things close. It's like kind of going to the third, late fourth quarter, and so we had the 20-point lead, but like I think everyone knew that we just kind of had to be ready for that run, especially, with guys like Lecon, and they have some other dudes who can go score and shoot. And so I think we're all just kind of like waiting for the storm, I guess is a good way to put it, to come. And so we kind of just were prepared for that, and we managed to hang on. So it was a big win for us for sure.
You did a good job because they sent blitzes at him, sent 2 at him.
Yeah.
He's very good at splitting in uncanny ability to split double teams and draw contact. But I think what did he end up with? 19 that game? I don't think he had that big of a game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I think it was, something like that, 17, 19, somewhere in there.
Which is still solid.
He had 19, but he didn't score his first points until the fourth quarter, I don't think.
Okay, so think about that. So you held him scoreless for 3 quarters, and then he's done that. I think he had 30 points against Highland earlier at Rio Rancho, the Rio Rancho tournament, 24-26 from the free throw line, which I think was an NMA record for as far as free throws and points in the fourth quarter. So you guys did a really good job on him in that game. And, again, your 2 losses are to Valley, and you've got Hope Christian tomorrow night. Quick turnaround, because there's got to be a quick memory loss from Friday night. And we mentioned give Coach Panas and the Valley Vikings credit. They had a good game plan. Tomorrow night, though, you've already beaten – and Hope's a good team, too. You beat them for the championship last year. Coach Murphy has 16 state championships. And I always tease Coach Murphy because I've known him for a long time. I'm like, Coach, how would 17 or 18 or 19 be any different than 16? You've got so many. Talk a little bit about the game tomorrow, because Coach Nunez mentioned the District of Champions. This is a big game tomorrow for both teams. And you're used to being in the catbird seat. You're used to that.
Yeah, definitely.
How are you going to deal with adversity? I think that's the key for – I talked to Coach Santianos about that just before we got on. Coach Nunez is coached. I've coached. I think when teams are going good, that's good. But when we get hit in the mouth and have to deal with a little bit of adversity, how do you think the Chargers will deal with it tomorrow night?
I think we're in a good position to deal with it. Like you said, it's kind of just an adversity thing, like when you're not, leading the district, this and that. But I think everyone knows like the stakes coming into this game, and I think the games we played, in the summer league and preseason, all the games leading up have, like, where we've been in close situations, they prepared us. And I think we're all ready. I think we know it's at stake. So I think all the preparation we've done up until this point has been pretty solid to prepare us for this game, and lead us into like high stakes games with a good mindset and good game plan.
It's up, Coach. I'm gonna go right back to you. It's always good, though, I think, to be challenged. It is. We don't want to lose. No one wants to lose. But all of a sudden, people are going to say after those 2 losses, oh well, maybe they're not as good as people think, right? Then you come and it's your turn to and you've done it before. The team is used to winning. Coach Nunez is going to go into some past history about the Chargers and when you came there. So, Coach, go ahead.
Yeah, before that, Joe, I just wanted to take it back. I read that the big 3 that you guys have, Academy, yourself, Dylan McCleskey, Justin Mask, you guys have been playing together since elementary school is how I understand it. Talk about when you guys first started playing together and kind of walk us through all the way up to high school.
So like you said, we've been playing together forever, us 3, and then Jack Johnson as well. He's like our defensive guy, So yeah, I've known him since first kindergarten, first grade. So, and I've been competing against him. I've played with them, and it's just kind of like one of those things. After playing with someone, competing against them for such a long time, you learn their habits and their tendencies. And it's such a nice thing, especially on the court. The chemistry just fits so well together, which is like a beautiful thing.
One thing I've also seen, I think it's on your Huddle account, you guys also have a club basketball team as well that you play in the off season. The New Mexico Fire, am I getting that right?
Yes, that's correct.
So just talk about that, how long you guys have been playing together on the club scene.
So I actually, those 3 have been playing together since, I want to say, 4th or 5th grade. I recently joined about 2-3 years ago. I was played against them for the longest time. But yeah, so I recently joined, like I said, 2-3 years ago, something like that. So we just, go out of town, like average AAU team. I think just competing against, especially higher levels of competition when you go out of state, it just makes you that much better when it comes to playing with guys that you've been playing with forever.
You mentioned that you've been playing basketball since elementary school. Kind of talk to us about what got you into basketball and why it's your sport.
So like you said, since elementary school, I don't know. It's just one of those things ever since I picked up the ball. It's just been like my passion. One of the things I just want to go out and do every day. So it's just, at the end of the day, it's my passion, the thing I love to do the most. So,
yeah. And when did you start playing, Joe?
I believe I was about kindergarten, first grade. So I would say 5 to 6 around there. So pretty since I've been super young.
And you've been a 4-year varsity guy at the Albuquerque Academy. When did things kind of start to click for you? Because your sophomore year, I think, was kind of the breakout year that we all started hearing about the Albuquerque Academy. But when do you think you started to develop into the player you are today?
Yeah, I actually can remember the game. It was right after winter break, my sophomore year against St. Pius, actually. So yeah, we played them at home, and we ended up losing the game. But I remember I think I hit like 4 or 5 threes, and I had like 20 something points, whatever. But that was before that I had kind of been struggling. So I think that game it just clicked for me for whatever reason. And I just ever since then it's just been how it is.
Coach, I'm going to go right back to you, but I want to talk to Joe about his career at the Albuquerque Academy. So, Joe, like we mentioned, 4-year varsity guy. Your first year, correct me if I'm wrong, it was that COVID shortened season, and it was under Coach Jake Herron.
Mm-hmm.
So, talk to us a little bit about him and what you learned from Coach Herron.
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for us was like the year before COVID, they had a big what was it? They were in state. I think they lost in the first round to Hope, I believe it was. And so that was kind of the mindset from that was just like recovering, kind of rebuilding the program, rebuilding the culture and the community within the program, and just kind of, like having people want to show up to practice every day, want to show up for the program and just kind of better everyone around themselves, which was the biggest key I took away from him.
And then Coach C. Baca takes over in the 2021-2022 season. That's your sophomore year. You guys took a big jump that year. I think you guys finished the year 18-8. You won district against the defending Del Norte Knights, who were the defending champions that year. That was Shane Dumas Sanchez and Judah Casau's junior season. Talk about what your team accomplished that year.
Yeah, so that was such a special year for us, especially after like the previous 2 years. And I think the biggest thing for us that year, like I said, was the culture. They're transferring from, having the coaching switch. And there was a lot of older dudes. I can name a few, Will James, Kane Demers, just kind of helped us build that culture. And I mean, it wasn't a perfect year by any means, but I think we learned a lot from that year. And the biggest thing was becoming a community and a family was the biggest part of it.
I was there at St. Pius when you guys lost in the quarterfinals. Tough game, kind of went down to the wire. I remember Kellen Garris got real hot in that second half, went on a big spurt. But talk about what the message was going into the offseason, losing to Pius in the quarterfinals. Kind of what was the mentality of that team going into the next year?
Yeah, I think everyone was, especially after losing a game like that, everyone they just had the mindset to come out there and no matter what, just compete and like do their best to win games and kind of like avenge the loss that we had the previous year. And so I think we did a pretty good job of that last year.
Coach, go ahead.
I've got a quote from your coach, Marco Cidabaca, who I've known for very many years, a heck of a player back in the day at Del Norte himself, and just a good man who I admire and respect a great deal. This is Coach Cidabaca's quote: "Great kid, awesome to coach, very coachable, very respectful, always answers with yes, sir, no, sir. He's very quiet, but don't let that fool you. He is an ultimate competitor who has that dog in him." And, back in the day, Coach Cidabaca had some dog in him too, man. He did. Heck of a player. And like I said, an even better person who I always enjoy talking to. Talk a little bit about his influence. Coach Nunez asked you about Coach Herron, who I think the world of. I think Coach Herron's a great guy. The academy staff, you've got some great, you've got Coach Santianes. You've got some great coaches there. Steve Mieta has been there forever.
Yeah.
Forever. I officiated for 22 years, and Coach Mieta has been there for a long time. I really respect him as well. So talk a little bit about Coach Cidabaca's influence, Coach Santianes, and Coach Santianes was telling me he echoed what Coach Cidabaca said. I've known Coach Santianes since he's been 8 years old. I've known him for a long time. Wow. He echoed what Coach Cidabaca had said about you. Talk a little bit about their influence on you as a player and as a person.
Yeah, they're some of my biggest role models for sure. Just the way they go about things, like from practice to just be like people and leaders in the community. I just think the world of them. Like you've been saying, they've had like the biggest influence on my life for sure. Coach Cidabaca, Coach Santi, Coach Mieta, all the coaches on the coaching staff. The way they carry themselves, like every day, like coming to practice, like you never see them have a bad day. Is the thing I always say, and they've just been the biggest influence and like role models for me as a person. So.
Yeah, Coach Mieta, believe me when I tell you, he could play too, man. He had a lefty, and he hurt his knees a long time ago and had to stop playing. But Steve was a good player, man. So was Coach Lantiatis at Valley, the silent assassin they used to call him. That guy could shoot from the corner, good player. But he mentioned that you spent a lot of time at the community center this summer getting shots up and working, and that's what it's about. The show is called A Road to the Pit. That's what this show is called. Last year, the Academy came out on top, winning the 4A championship. Tough semi against Valley. Garris, I believe, didn't even know if he could go, and he did. Talk a little bit about the road to the pit last year and the excitement of even playing in the pit, and then for the championship against Hope. Almost anticlimactic after beating Valley in that tough semi. I think Kozlowski had a chance to win it at the end, and the shot was way off, but they had a chance, ball in their hands to win it. Talk a little bit about those two games, and then Academy coming out on top to win the championship.
Yeah, so the biggest thing we did our original goal, like going to that off season, it was on the board every day. It was get to the pit was the biggest thing for us. And so once we got there, we had Deming first round of the pit. We took care of them pretty easily, I believe. And then that Valley game, man, I mean, KG, he was hurt, and I think he started the game, but I don't think he played more than maybe 4 or 5 minutes. So that was kind of a big game, like where we all had to step up. And, we got lucky with that one, that game-winning shot. Thank God didn't go in. And then the Hope game, I think we all knew once we saw Hope on the schedule, it was just kind of like go in there, take care of business. And I think we did exactly that. And we all had that mindset to go in that no matter what, we were going to win that game.
KG actually did play in that championship game and played well. I think he had, in fact, I talked to Coach Citabaka. I had him on my other show, and he had talked about the 24-hour treatment that KG got, Kellen Garris. Yeah, because his ankle was – it's hard to, we've all sprained ankles. You sprained it, my Coach Nunez has, and those take a long time to heal. So that turnaround, Coach Citabaka credited your trainer with a lot of TLC for Kellen to even play, and he played well. I mean, you would expect him to be limping, not being able to. He played really well, unbelievably well. How did it feel for Academy, you to be part of that team? Academy had not won a championship since 1994, I believe. It had been a long time since Academy won the championship. Under the great late Mike Brown, they won 6 in a row at the time. One time, 6 in a row. Unbelievable. How did it feel to be part of bringing that winning culture back to the Albuquerque Academy?
Yeah, I mean, it meant the world to all of us. Like at the end of the day, like that was our ultimate goal. I said we wanted to get to the pit, but I think everyone going into that season really just wanted to get that state championship. So it was a very special moment in all of our lives, and just to achieve it together, as a family, as a brotherhood, was just so special to us, and it was just the best feeling in the world to be able to win that.
One more question, I'll turn it right back to Coach Nunez. Every young man, every young woman dreams of playing in the pit. That's why the show is called A Road to the Pit. Talk a little about when you ran down that ramp against Deming. How was that? When you see everything you've dreamed about and heard about. It's a different shooting background. It's basketball, right? They said that's in Hoosiers. Still a 10 feet rim, the whole thing. But when you ran down that ramp, what was your feeling?
I mean, of course, I'm going to be a little nervous, but more than anything, I was just so thrilled to play there. You watch the Lobos growing up as a kid. So just to be able to be in that situation, walk down the ramp onto the court and be able to play in such a amazing stadium it's just another feeling. You got to really be there to experience it. It's hard, you can't describe it. You just got to be there in the moment. It's just so special.
Yeah, no doubt. Coach.
Joe, I want to talk to you a little bit about your numbers from last year. I think you finished the season, according to your Twitter account, JoeJack_24, 19 points, almost 20 points a game, and then about 7 rebounds per game. You're pretty consistent this year, 21 points, 8 rebounds a game. Just talk about how you've been able to maintain consistent numbers at such a high level.
Yeah, the biggest thing for me is to I don't even try to focus on the numbers. I could care less if I've scored 10 points, 20 points, 30, whatever. The biggest thing for me is as long as we get the win and I'm contributing in a way like playing winning basketball is the biggest thing for me. So I think the numbers just kind of come with it. If you focus on winning and being a good teammate, doing all the little things and the intangibles in defense, the numbers are just something that's going to come along with that.
And you had touched on this earlier, the chemistry that you have with the other big three on your team, Dylan McCleskey, Justin Mask. You guys are all averaging double figures this year. How is it that you guys are able to share the basketball and be so productive on the offensive side of the floor?
Yeah, like you said, the chemistry is just a huge thing, not being selfish with the ball. I think it's just because everyone knows each other so well, we're friends on and off the court. So I think it's just sharing the ball is just a thing that comes naturally to the team. And I think it's what's been able to, help everyone score double figures, like you said.
Wanted to ask you not so much a basketball question, Joe, but kind of a question unrelated to basketball. You go to the Albuquerque Academy, which is one of the best, if not the best, academic institution in Albuquerque. According to your Twitter account, you have a 4.16 GPA. What's your plan after high school?
Right now, I'm undecided on schools, but my plan is I want to double major in computer science and finance. So once I figure out the right school for me, that's kind of the plan after high school and hoops is done. So.
Do you have any interest in trying to play basketball after high school?
Yeah, I'm still trying to. I've been in contact with the coaches, so just kind of figuring out the right place for me at this point, I think, is the biggest thing.
Are you able to speak on what kind of schools you're looking at, or is that something that you're just going to kind of reserve until the end of the season?
Yeah, I can speak on it. I've just been looking at some D3 schools right now, nothing D1 as of yet. So it's kind of like I mentioned earlier. I said Lewis and Clark, Chapman, Swarthmore, just been schools I've been keeping in contact with.
And you're 6'3", Joe, and I think right now the position that you play for the Albuquerque Academy Chargers, it's kind of a point forward, maybe a power forward, maybe a small forward. But talk about the versatility of your game. I think you can play inside, and if you had to play, at the college level, you could probably play outside as well. Talk about your versatility.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of a thing that comes naturally, like being 6'4", of course, it definitely helps. But, the biggest thing for me is just having the ability to shoot, which I think is the biggest thing in basketball today, just like having that versatility. And so once you get that, like once you have the ability to shoot, I feel like it just kind of opens up everything else. And it just like allows you to create so much more. So I think that's the biggest thing for me is just having the shooting ability, which just opens everything else up so much easier.
Coach, go ahead.
Coach, thanks, Coach. You a couple of things I want to ask you about. Hunter Amey, we saw him on Friday night, and I know in talking to Coach Santianes, he said in preseason he was dominating. He's doing some great stuff. I saw some good things from him on Friday night. I really did. He's tall. He's got the size, plays big, can catch the ball. What kind of factor do you think he'll be down the stretch? He could be a big factor, an X factor that people didn't really see. Now they're seeing him. What kind of factor do you think he'll be for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it'll be huge for us going down the stretch. Of course, he missed some time earlier with the injury, so now he's just kind of coming back from that, getting used to the pace of the game and how we play. But I think once he figures it out and once we're starting to, like get him into the lineup in the rotation, where I think it'll be a huge factor, especially, with his length and his ability to rebound and finish at the rim.
He's a developing project, and you can tell, he's raw, but there's some skills there. He surprised me a couple of times, and I think Coach Nunez on Friday as well with some of the plays he made. I want to switch back to the academic part of the Albuquerque Academy, a 4.16 GPA. I told Coach Santianes when I was at Holy Ghost in 7th grade, I took the tour with Coach Brown. He asked me to tour the academy, and I remember seeing some of these things in the classes and being like, "Oh man," intimidated. Right? I was like, some of the things I was looking at. I'm like, man, I don't think I could, I could hang academically. Talk a little bit about the academics. It's an unbelievable school. A lot of graduates go to Harvard, Stanford, Yale, doctors, lawyers. Talk a little bit about that academic challenge there at Academy, because it's not a small thing. It's, you've really got to bear down and do your work, and with your GPA, you've absolutely done that. Talk a little bit about some of the classes you're taking, even as a senior.
Yeah, so like you said, like when I first went there, I didn't know if it was for me or if I could do it, but I think I've been going there since 6th grade. So I think once you kind of just get adjusted, it's like becomes kind of like the way of life there. You're expected to keep up good grades. I mean, of course, that's the reason you want to go there, is to, have good grades, this and that. And I think it's just the community is so supportive, like the teachers, they never let you fall behind. You always have people there to reach out to. And I think that's super big, especially when it comes to school, just having like a good community around you that's like ready to support you at all times. And it's just been like so instrumental to help me, like you said, have a high GPA. So.
Well, you gotta really you gotta stay on top of it, though. I mean, some of the classes you're taking are not, they're not easy. So you have to stay on top of that. We mentioned another player I want to ask you about is Zach Borrego, only a freshman, comes in and plays. I thought he did it, and then Ben Morgan, I thought, gave you some good minutes off the bench with the defense. I think that's former head coach Roy Morgan's son, and so I thought he came in and did a good job. Talk a little bit about those two players. Zach Borrego, of course, the son of the former great Charger James Borrego, Talk a little bit about those two players. I thought they came in on when you needed some defense on the press that you guys were trying to do. I thought both of them did a pretty good job.
Yeah, they've been really good, especially these last few games. You know, they come in off the bench. You know, it's never an easy thing to do, but I think they know like what they need to do. You know, be a defensive presence and do the best on that end. And like as well, I think Ben hit a 3 against Valley the other day, and Borrego I think we played Del Norte. He hit about 4 threes. So they've been able to step up and come into their roles when we need them, which is huge for us.
Coach, you got anything else?
Yeah, a couple more questions. So, Joe, I think you guys were on New Mexico Game Time with JP Marietta last year. There was talk from Coach Cita Baca about some of the other coaches around the Albuquerque area that had come and talked to you guys. We've touched on it, the tradition at Albuquerque Academy. But we just mentioned Zach Borrego, obviously his dad, James Borrego, former head coach of the Charlotte Hornets. I believe he's now an assistant with the New Orleans Pelicans. Did he ever come around your locker room and talk to you guys?
Yeah, we've definitely seen him before, you know, in the off season when he's able to be around, not off coaching, you know. But yeah, he's definitely been a supporter of ours for sure, especially since his son plays on the team. But yeah, his advice he's given us, you know, I mean, especially playing there himself and being an NBA coach now, you know, just like the little things that they do in the NBA that are like so instrumental, especially if you translate them to high school basketball, that can really help you win. So just little things like that have been huge for him.
And then also, you know, rest in peace, Mike Brown, Papa Brown. Obviously, his 2 sons, Danny Brown, the head coach at Sandia, Greg Brown, the head coach at Volcano Vista. Have they been around the program and had any influence on you guys in the last couple of years?
Definitely, yeah. We've done some you know, joint practices, things like that, and they've just been there to push us, you know, when we need them, when we needed it. Just you know, of course they play at 5A, so just a different level for us, and just being able to get us a top competition and just have an extra bit of support in the community. So,
Joe, just a couple more questions, then I'll turn it over back to Coach Ed Nunez, and he'll wrap it up with you. But you guys have gone through everybody in your district. You guys have lost to Valley twice. What's left on this road to the pit? What do you guys need to do to put you in a position to get a good seed in the state tournament and get back to the pit?
Yeah, so of course we got Hope tomorrow, and then we have our last 2 district games against Del Norte and Bernalillo. So I think the biggest thing for us is just looking to win out in those games and then head on to the district tournament and just clean up the little things and like game plan for the teams that we will be seeing, like another Valley game in the district tournament, and then just getting ready for the state games, which is the biggest part of the season. So,
Coach, I'll turn it back over to you. I got one more question, but I'll go back to you.
You know, you mentioned that in the challenge, when you're the defending champs, you get everybody's best shot. You do. It's tough to win one championship, much less back-to-back, and that's the goal. Get another one. We want to win another one. You mentioned some of the challenges and having to clean some things up after Friday's game, but it's going to take a joint team effort to do that. You've got Hope Christian, Del Norte, Belen, and then Bernalillo. Now, count ahead and do whatever you have to do. One game at a time has to be the mentality. You can't say, well, we're going to win here. And people have a tendency to do that. They'll see the schedule. We beat this, we beat that, we should win. You're going to get every team's best shot. What's it going to take for the academy to hoist that trophy back to back? Everybody wants that back to back. What's it going to take for the Chargers to do that?
Yeah, I think like you said, you know, get every team's best shot. I think that's what's really prepared us, especially going to the state tournament. You know, you can never take a game off, never count this one as put this in the win column or put that in the loss column. I think you just have to go every game. You know you're going to get each team's best shot. So I think that's really prepared us. So I think just like knowing that going into the state tournament and just like I said, game planning, preparing, doing all that, and just having gone through the season with getting everyone's best shot, which just prepared us the most that we needed for the state tournament. So,
go ahead, Coach.
Actually, 2 more questions, Joe. You know, my first one: who's the best shooter in the gym? You, Dylan McCleskey, Justin Mask, or Coach Anthony Santillanes? Who wins in a 3-point contest?
Well, you know, of course, I got to say me. They probably won't be too happy about it, but I'm going with myself for sure.
Who comes in second? Who comes in third? And who comes in last?
Well, I think Coach Santi might have to come in second, third, and fourth. I don't know. It's kind of a toss-up. You never know, just depending on the day.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And then,
That's
Joe.
the correct answer, Joe. I like that. You got to be PC, baby. I get it. Yeah.
And then, Joe, you've accomplished a lot in your career. You were, 27 points in the state championship last year. You've been named All-District. You've been named All-State. This season, you were named the MVP of the Sandia Prep Sun Devil Invitational. What are some goals that you have for yourself as you close out this season, your senior year?
Biggest goal, like of course, would be state, but that's more of a team thing. But personally, I think just all state, all district, just things of that nature. But ultimately, at the end of the day, just getting another state championship is the biggest goal for me.
That's all I got, Coach.
Joe Jack, senior forward for the Albuquerque Academy Chargers, the defending champions, will take on Hope Christian tomorrow night, I believe. And they've got games against Del Norte, Belen, and Bernalillo left in district, and then the district tournament. And then, man, the granddaddy of them all, baby, the state tournament, which is just around the corner. We wish you all the best of luck in the remainder of the season. And thank you so much for joining us on the Road to the Pit, a high school journey. We sure appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
You bet. For Nick Nunez, I'm Ed Nunez. We'll see you next week with another guest on the Road to the Pit, a high school basketball journey.